Tonight, she was supposed to smile on the engagement stage, nothing more than a bargaining chip in her parents' grand exchange. But Serafina Hale did the unthinkable. She ran. She bolted from the glowing mansion. Her natural curls were pinned in an elegant updo, a single coil falling against her cheek, framing her deep brown eyes against skin glowing like bronze under the chandeliers. Her high heels striking against the gravel and vanished into the car of a stranger. She had no idea. That man carried a secret powerful enough to alter the course of her life forever. The music inside the ballroom still played, laughter and chatter echoing through the halls. But Serafina's heart was no longer there. Each hurried step away was a cut against the Hale family's pride. They wanted prestige, they needed money, and they were willing to sacrifice their daughter to secure both. But Serafina refused. She longed to live her own life. She longed for love, for freedom, for more than being treated like a signed check. In the darkness, the car door slammed shut. From that very moment, fate opened a new path, a path steeped in mystery and danger. If you have ever wished to choose your own destiny, stay with her. Follow along, because this journey might just mirror your own. Crystal chandeliers glowed above the ballroom of Newport. Golden light spilled across polished floors. Champagne glasses clinked, music swelled, and the laughter of the elite filled the air. Every detail shouted wealth, power, and legacy. Yet, for Serafina Hale, the scene felt like a cage. She stood near the edge of the crowd, sapphire gown wrapped tight against her frame. Her hands rested on the stem of an untouched flute, fingers trembling in silence. Her eyes wandered across jeweled gowns, black tuxedos, and practiced smiles. The entire room sparkled, but none of it reached her. Around her, women whispered about fortunes and heirs. Men spoke of mergers, not marriages. Every sound pressed harder against her chest. She could hear the music, but inside there was only a hollow echo. Her reflection in the glass window caught her attention. A young black woman who looked flawless by society's standards. Yet she knew the whispers followed. Her skin, her heritage, her place in a world that never fully embraced her. Behind the polished mask was emptiness. She felt invisible among people who only valued her name. The Hale family's wealth was on display. Their legacy demanded this night. But Serafina's spirit was absent. In this palace of prestige, she was the only thing that did not shine. Across the ballroom, Gregory Hale gripped hands with investors, his voice smooth, rehearsed. Every handshake promised survival. Every smile masked desperation. His empire was crumbling, but no one could see. Appearances mattered more than truth. Beside him, Marjorie Hale glided like a queen. Her jewels glittered, her gown impeccable. She leaned close to whisper rehearsed pleasantries. To the world, she was grace. To her daughter, she was steel. Serafina watched them both a distance away. The memories of her mother's words pierced through the noise. Do this, and maybe they'll finally respect us. That command was still fresh, sharp as glass. Hope. That was what they called her. But she knew what it meant. She was leverage, a currency. A body dressed in silk, wrapped as an offering to the highest bidder. She lifted the champagne flute to her lips, but her throat closed. The taste of bubbles would only choke her. She set it back on a passing tray, her hands cold. The orchestra played louder. Guests circled closer to her parents. The evening marched toward its announcement, and Serafina stood frozen, knowing her own future was being traded before her eyes. The whispers carried her fate. Lucian Blackwell. His name traveled through hushed conversations, printed on contracts, etched into her parents' plans. He was the solution. He was the answer to debts and failing fortunes. Serafina had never seen his face. Only letters on legal pages. Only numbers tied to wealth and control. To her, Lucian was not a man. He was a verdict. She felt her chest tighten. This was not an engagement. It was a transaction. A trade of flesh for finance. They called it marriage, but to Serafina, it was a sale. Her eyes darted to her father, who smiled too easily. To her mother, who basked in approval. They looked victorious, proud, as if chaining their daughter was triumph. She pressed a hand against her abdomen, willing herself not to collapse. Around her, the ballroom hummed with celebration. But inside, her pulse beat like a warning drum. She wanted to scream. She wanted to vanish. But her lips stayed sealed, her smile frozen. Serafina knew tonight would carve her life in stone, unless she broke it first. The clock inside her heart whispered one choice: escape or become the price her family had already paid. Her hand slid away from the tray, fingers trembling as she released the glass. She looked toward the far corner of the ballroom. Behind a tall fern stood a narrow side door. It seemed to breathe, waiting, promising air beyond the suffocation. Seraphina's heart pounded against her ribs. Every laugh behind her grew sharper, every violin string louder. She could almost hear her name being chained to Lucian Blackwell, announced to the world as an offering. She did not wait for courage. She only moved. Step by step, gown swishing against her legs, heels striking the marble. The crowd's attention stayed on champagne toasts, not on the daughter slipping away. The door opened with a faint groan. Cool night air, Ashtaitir, rushed in, humid and heavy. It filled her lungs with freedom and fear all at once. Gravel crunched beneath her shoes as she crossed the wide drive. Behind her, the mansion glowed with gold and victory. Ahead, only shadow. Her chest rose and fell with wild rhythm. One thought pulsed louder than the music fading behind her. Leave now or lose everything. Seraphina clenched her fists, whispering to herself, "Before they bind me forever, I will disappear." The driveway stretched wide, lined with gleaming machines of power and wealth. Seraphina's eyes caught a black sedan, sleek, polished, out of place with its driver's door cracked open. Inside, the keys glinted faintly under the moonlight. She froze. Her chest heaved, breath shallow. It could be a trap. It could be salvation. The music from the ballroom spilled weakly through the night air, pressing her forward. Her heels sank slightly in the gravel as she approached. Every crunch echoed like thunder in her ears. She reached for the handle, hesitated, and then pulled. The door gave way with a soft click. Seraphina slid into the back seat, gathering her gown close. The leather was cool, the scent inside sharp with cedar and spice. She crouched low, heart pounding so loudly she feared it would give her away. The silence wrapped around her. Only crickets outside, only the faint hum of the estate far behind. She clutched her purse, her only possession, her lifeline. She whispered into the darkness as if to steady herself, "You don't own me." Then she held her breath, still as stone, waiting for fate to decide her next move. Footsteps. Steady, deliberate, crunching against gravel. Each one pierced through the quiet night, closing in on the car. Seraphina pressed herself lower behind the driver's seat, every muscle locked. The driver's door opened. The car dipped under the weight of someone entering. A man's presence filled the space. Confident, unhurried. The keys jingled, metal against metal before the engine roared to life. Seraphina dared not move. She pressed her lips tight, praying he would not glance back. But then his voice broke the silence. Low, smooth, edged with something that unsettled her. "Most girls ask for a ride," he said, amusement lacing his tone. "You, sweetheart, just steal one." Her heart leapt to her throat. She looked up, and in the rearview mirror she caught his eyes. Gray, sharp, alive with mischief. Shadows traced the lines of his face, jaw strong, hair dark and tousled. He didn't stop driving. His hands rested easy, one on the wheel, the other on the gearshift. He seemed too calm, too certain. Seraphina sat frozen, caught between terror and fascination. This was no ordinary stranger, and yet she had stepped straight into his world. Her voice broke the silence, sharper than she meant. "Please, don't take me back." The man's eyes flicked to the mirror, lingering on her reflection. His smirk deepened, but his tone carried weight. "Back where? To the glittering cage you just ran from?" Seraphina's breath hitched. She hated the way her chest burned, hated that his words rang true. "I can't go back there," she whispered, clutching her purse tighter. "Not to them." "Not to them," he repeated slowly, tasting the words. His voice was calm, but something darker hid beneath it. "So you climb into random cars in evening gowns? Bold choice." Her cheeks flushed hot, though the night inside the car was cool. "It was the only way," she said, steadier now, though her heart raced. He leaned slightly, just enough to make his presence felt, never taking his eyes off the road. "You've got fire, but fire needs direction. Otherwise it burns itself out." Seraphina bristled, anger and fear tangled. "Stop calling me sweetheart," she snapped, though her voice wavered. He only chuckled, low and quiet. "Then give me your name, runaway." And in that charged silence, Serafina realized she had crossed into something far more dangerous than she ever planned. The silence pressed harder until Serafina broke it. Her voice trembled, but anger cut through. "They're forcing me into a marriage, to a man I've never even met." The stranger's eyes flicked to hers in the mirror, gray and steady. He said nothing, so she kept talking, each word burning in her throat. "His name is Lucian Blackwell, a businessman. My parents call him their salvation. To me, he is a prison with no walls." Her voice cracked. She hated that it did. She hated the bitterness that clung to his name. "I will not belong to him," she whispered. The man on the wheel leaned back slightly, one hand loose, the other tapping the gear shift. A shadow of a smile traced his mouth, unreadable, dangerous. Still, he did not speak. His silence was heavier than any question. Serafina looked away, her chest tight. She had never said it aloud. Now that she had, it felt like ripping open a wound. The only response was the hum of the engine and the faint sound of his quiet, restrained laughter. It chilled her. It pulled her deeper. She could not tell if he pitied her, mocked her, or knew more than he revealed. The sedan rolled away from the estate, tires crunching gravel before sliding onto the open road. The night stretched wide, the ocean hidden but near. A salty breeze drifted through the cracked window, mixing with the man's cedar scent. Serafina gripped her purse against her chest. Her pulse thudded with fear, but a strange relief began to bloom. The mansion lights shrank behind them, golden chains fading into the distance. She let out a shaky breath. "I don't care where this road goes, as long as it isn't back there." For the first time he spoke without teasing. His voice was low, certain. "I know a place. Off the grid. Safe." The words should have comforted her. Instead, they twisted her chest tighter. Safe with a stranger was still dangerous. Yet every mile felt like peeling away layers of suffocation. The dashboard glowed faint blue, shadows dancing across his face. He drove like he owned the night, calm, unwavering. Serafina leaned against the seat, exhaustion pulling at her bones. She was running, but for the first time she felt like she might actually be free. Still, a whisper in her mind asked the question she dared not voice. Safe from them, but safe with him? Hours blurred into silence until the road narrowed. Pines rose tall on both sides, their branches blotting out the moon. The sedan slowed, crunching across gravel, climbing a hidden path. Ahead stood a house of stone and timber, not a mansion, not polished marble or crystal chandeliers. A cabin, grand in size yet quiet, its walls softened by ivy, windows dark against the night. The man cut the engine. The hum died, replaced by the hiss of crickets and the hush of trees. He stepped out, then leaned to open her door with ease. "Welcome to your refuge," he said. Serafina sat frozen, hands clutching her gown. Her instincts screamed to run, yet her body would not move. The air smelled of pine, cool and sharp. No one from her world could find her here. At last, she stepped out. Her heels wobbled on the uneven path, the stones damp beneath her feet. He gestured toward the heavy oak door, his movements steady, almost inviting. She hesitated on the threshold. The night pressed in behind her, and this house loomed before her. Crossing it meant more than hiding. It meant stepping into a life she could not yet name. The first morning felt unreal. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, spilling across polished wood. Serafina crept into the kitchen, hoping for silence. Instead, she found him already there. Dante stood by the counter, mug in hand, leaning with casual ease. His gray eyes lifted as she entered, the corner of his mouth tugging upward. "Morning, run away," he said, voice low and teasing. She stiffened, reaching for a mug from the shelf. Their hands brushed as he passed the sugar jar toward her. Heat sparked at the contact, unwelcome yet undeniable. She pulled back quickly, cheeks warm. Breakfasts became chance encounters, passing in narrow hallways, his shoulder grazing hers as he moved aside. Every touch lingered too long in her mind. What unsettled her more was that he looked at her as if color, name, and legacy didn't matter. Only the woman standing before him. She told herself he was infuriating, too confident, too calm, but she caught herself listening for his footsteps. She caught herself watching the way he moved, how he filled every room. It was a strange rhythm, forced by circumstance. They were strangers, yet the walls between them grew thinner each day. In the quiet kitchen, with coffee and stolen glances, Serafina felt the shift. Something dangerous was beginning to spark. One night, the house was quiet. Serafina wandered the halls, restless, her thoughts circling the life she left behind. Then she heard it, a soft strum, low and aching, drifting from the living room. She stopped at the doorway. Dante sat on the edge of the couch, a guitar resting against his knee. His fingers moved slowly, coaxing a melody that carried both sorrow and calm. No smirk, no sharp remark, just music, raw and unguarded. Serafina held her breath. She had never seen him like this. The man who teased her endlessly, who seemed untouchable, was suddenly human, vulnerable, alone. He didn't notice her at first. She let the sound wrap around her, a language deeper than words. When his eyes lifted, catching her in the doorway, he didn't flinch. He only paused, the faintest curve of a smile softening his face. She stepped closer, drawn without thinking. "I didn't know you played," she whispered. "Not everything about me is in plain sight," he replied, voice quieter than she'd ever heard. In that moment, the distance between them shrank. For the first time, Serafina felt not just attraction, but understanding. A thread of empathy tied them together in the silence. Days slipped by, but safety was an illusion. The town whispered. Strangers lingered longer than they should. One afternoon, as Serafina stared out the window, she noticed a black SUV crawling past the road below. Its tinted windows gave nothing away, but her stomach twisted. Another day, she saw the same vehicle again, parked near the market when she dared to step outside. Fear pressed against her ribs. The Hale family was searching. Their reach stretched far, and they would not let her go easily. At night, she lay awake, listening for engines on gravel, for footsteps on the porch. Sleep came shallow, broken. Every creak in the old house made her tense. Dante noticed. He didn't ask, but his eyes tracked every flicker of her unease. His calm seemed unshaken, but she could sense the storm building beneath his steady frame. Serafina hugged herself tighter, standing at the window one evening. She whispered, "They'll find me." The trees outside swayed, shadows stretching long. The sense of being hunted grew sharper each day. No matter how far she ran, the past was not finished with her yet, and now the danger was not just hers, it reached into the walls of this new refuge. The storm of fear finally broke into words. Serafina stood in the kitchen, voice tight. "They'll come. They won't stop until I'm dragged back." Dante set his mug down with a quiet thud. He looked at her, steady and unflinching. His gray eyes held no smirk now, only resolve. "Listen to me," he said, his voice deep and certain. "Here, no one touches you. Not your family, not their men, no one." The certainty in his tone froze her. It wasn't arrogance, it wasn't charm, it was conviction, spoken like truth carved in stone. Her breath caught. Something inside her chest shifted, loosening even as fear tried to hold on. Dante stepped closer, his presence filling the space between them. He didn't reach for her, but the promise in his words wrapped around her like armor. "You're safe here," he added, lower now, almost a vow. Serafina swallowed hard, her throat tight. She wanted to believe him. She wanted the strength in his voice to be real. For the first time since the night she fled, her heart slowed. Not because the danger was gone, but because someone stood in its path. Someone willing to bear it with her. The knock on the heavy oak door came sharp, not polite. Serafina froze where she stood, fear crawling up her spine. Dante moved first, his steps calm but firm. He opened the door just enough to block the view behind him. Outside, a black SUV idled, headlights washing over the porch. Marcus, her father's assistant, stood with two men in dark suits. His expression was cold, businesslike. "Mr. Cross," Marcus said, his voice clipped, "you have something that doesn't belong to you. The Hales demand her return. Tonight." Dante's jaw flexed. His frame filled the doorway, immovable. "She doesn't belong to anyone," he said, low and steady. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "The family won't tolerate this. You're risking more than you know." "Step back," Dante warned, voice edged with steel. A tense silence stretched, broken only by the rumble of the SUV engine. Marcus finally gestured to his men. They retreated, climbing back into the vehicle. Gravel crunched as it reversed down the drive. Serafina's knees weakened. The danger was real now, no longer whispers. Dante shut the door with finality, his gaze flicking to her. "They'll come again," he said, and she knew he was right. The house was quiet after the encounter, yet Serafina's chest still raced. She found Dante in the living room, leaning against the mantel, arms crossed. Shadows from the firelight traced his face, unreadable. Her voice broke the silence. "Why did you do that? Why risk yourself for me?" He glanced at her, expression calm but heavy. "Because some things," he said slowly, "cannot be bought. Not with money, not with names." His words sank deep, though they left more questions than answers. She studied him in the flickering light, searching for cracks in his mask. He seemed to know too much, care too much, for a stranger. "You talk like you've lived this," she said softly. He smirked faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Maybe I have." The answer unsettled her more than silence. She felt both drawn to him and wary of what he wasn't saying. His presence was a shield, but one wrapped in secrets. Her heart tugged with confusion. Gratitude, curiosity, fear. She sat near the fire, unable to look away from him. In that moment, she realized the mystery of Dante Cross was as dangerous as the family hunting her. The next day, Dante led her outside into the open yard. The air was sharp, pine-scented. He stood across from her, his stance firm. "You want to stop being afraid?" he asked. "Then learn how to fight back." Serafina frowned. "I'm not built for this." "You're stronger than you think," he replied. He guided her through simple stances, his hands steadying her wrists, correcting her posture. Each touch sparked heat she tried to ignore. He showed her how to block, how to push away, how to strike if cornered. At first, she stumbled. Her arms felt weak, but Dante didn't relent. "Again," he ordered, his voice calm but insistent. By the fifth try, her movements sharpened. She shoved against his chest and he stepped back with a hint of approval. "That's it," he said, eyes glinting. "Don't just survive. Claim your ground." Breathless, Serafina wiped her brow. For the first time she felt a flicker of power inside her. Their eyes met. She hated the way her pulse jumped, but she couldn't deny it. It wasn't only strength he was teaching her, it was belief. And with every lesson, the space between them grew smaller. That evening, the pressure broke. Serafina sat at the edge of the bed, tears stinging hot against her skin. The weight of her family, the threat of being dragged back, the confusion of Dante's presence, it all collided. When the door creaked open, she didn't look up, but he was there, quiet, watching her shoulders shake. "Leave me alone," she whispered, though her voice trembled. He crossed the room anyway, his steps steady. He knelt beside her, his hand brushing against her arm. She turned, and in that instant, the dam gave way. Tears spilled, raw and unguarded. Dante didn't speak. He only pulled her into his chest, his arms strong, steady. His scent, cedar and spice, wrapped around her like a promise. Her sobs quieted, but the ache remained. She lifted her face, eyes meeting his. There was no smirk now, only intensity. He cupped her cheek, thumb catching a tear. The silence stretched. Then, without thought, he leaned in. His lips met hers, soft at first, then deeper, urgent, as if holding back had become impossible. The world outside vanished. For that moment, there was only pain, release, and the beginning of something neither could deny. The kiss deepened, pulling them both past the edge they had danced around for days. Serafina gripped his shirt, drawing him closer. Dante's arms tightened around her, grounding her in a storm she no longer wanted to resist. They stumbled back, lips never parting, until the bed met them both. Her gown slipped away, his shirt undone, fabric falling like barriers broken. Every touch was urgent, yet tender. Serafina gasped as his lips traced her skin, as his hands claimed and reassured all at once. It wasn't just passion, it was release. The release of fear, of grief, of walls built too high. Her fingers tangled in his hair, his name spilled from her lips like a plea. Dante whispered hers against her neck, raw and reverent. Time lost meaning. They moved together, not as strangers, not as prisoner and protector, but as two souls clinging to the only truth left, each other. When it was over, they lay tangled in silence. His hand rested against her waist, steady. Her head pressed to his chest, listening to the rhythm of a heart she had never trusted before now. Serafina closed her eyes. For the first time, she felt alive, unchained, and wanted. The next morning, gravel crunched under heavy tires. Serafina looked out the window and felt her stomach drop. Another black SUV. This time, it wasn't Marcus. Gregory Hale stepped out first, his suit sharp as steel. Marjorie followed, pearls glinting against her neck, her lips pressed into a thin line. Two lawyers shadowed them, their briefcases like weapons. The front door shook with their knock. Dante answered, his frame filling the doorway. His voice was calm, but the air turned heavy. "We've come for our daughter," Gregory said. "Hand her over, and this ends." Serafina's breath hitched as she stood in the foyer. Her father's eyes found her, cold, measuring. "Sarah, come home. Enough of this foolish rebellion." Her mother's tone was softer, but sharper still. "Do not ruin us, child." The weight of their words pressed like chains. Serafina's throat tightened, but her feet did not move. Dante's shoulders squared. "She is not yours to command," he said. Gregory's eyes narrowed, his voice slicing like glass. "We'll see about that." The silence stretched, a battlefield of blood and pride. Serafina felt the world tilt. Something darker, heavier, was about to break open. The tension cracked with Gregory's next words. His gaze cut past Serafina and landed on Dante. His lips curled into something close to triumph. "Lucian Blackwell," Gregory said, sharp and clear. The name fell like a stone into silence. Serafina's breath caught. Her world blurred. She turned to Dante, eyes wide, searching for denial. But he didn't deny it. His jaw clenched, his eyes steady, no longer hiding. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The man she had fled. The faceless husband chosen for her. The stranger she had cursed by name. He was standing right before her. The same man who had kissed her, held her, promised her freedom. Her chest squeezed as if the room itself betrayed her. "No," she whispered, her voice thin. Gregory's smirk sharpened. "You see, Serafina? You were never running from him. You were running straight into him." Her knees weakened, rage and disbelief tangling inside her. She looked at Dante, desperate for truth, for some explanation that could undo the knife her father had just twisted. But his silence, heavy and unyielding, cut deeper than any word. In that moment, Serafina felt not saved, but deceived. Her voice broke through the quiet, raw with fury. "You lied to me?" Dante took a step forward, his hand raised slightly as if to calm a storm. "I didn't lie. I never wanted that marriage, Serafina." Her chest burned. "You let me speak his name. You let me spit my hate for you, and you said nothing." "I didn't know you were in my car until that night," he said, his voice rough. "And when I realized I wanted you safe, I wanted you free from all of it." Her laugh was sharp, bitter. "Safe? You were the trap. You kept me here all the while knowing who you were." He shook his head, the smirk gone, replaced by something harsher. "I didn't keep you here to claim you. I kept you here because I couldn't let them take you." Her eyes brimmed, hot and stinging. "You stole my choice. You let me believe I had escaped." The silence swelled, thick with pain. Dante's chest rose and fell, his jaw tight. "I'm not your enemy, Sarah. Not then, not now." But to her, every word felt like salt in a wound she could not close. The lawyers left with their parents, the door shutting on their threats. The house fell into silence again, but it was not peace. Serafina stood with her back to Dante, arms wrapped tight around herself. She could barely breathe through the betrayal clawing inside her. Finally, his voice cut through. "I never wanted their deal. I never wanted to chain you." She turned, eyes blazing. "Then why? Why hide? Why let me believe you were someone else?" His gaze softened, though his frame stayed rigid. "Because if I told you the truth that night, you would have run. You wouldn't have trusted a word I said, and I needed you safe, even if it meant you hated me." Her chest trembled. His words hit deep, yet her wounds screamed against them. "You expect me to believe that? After everything?" she whispered. Dante stepped closer, careful, his voice low and raw. "I don't care if you hate me. I only care that you're free, not theirs, not mine. Yours." Serafina's throat tightened. She wanted to trust him. She wanted to hold to the warmth he had given her. But the fracture between them was sharp, and it cut with every breath. It didn't take long before the Hales returned. This time, they didn't wait in cars. They marched to the front steps, voices sharp, demanding. Gregory's words cut the air. "Serafina, enough games. Come back. We will finish this contract tonight." Marjorie's tone followed, cool and cruel. "Think of your name. Think of what you owe us. You will not shame this family." Serafina's heart pounded. For so long she had bowed her head, swallowed their commands. But not now, not anymore. Before she could speak, Dante stepped forward. His voice was iron. "I don't care about your contracts. I don't care about your empire. I choose her, not your terms, not your deal." Gasps flickered among the lawyers behind them. Serafina's chest burned. Tears pressed her eyes, but not from weakness, from strength. She stepped beside Dante, her chin lifting. "I am not your pawn anymore," she said. Her voice rang clear into the heavy night. Gregory's face twisted with rage. Marjorie's pearls gleamed as her jaw clenched. The chains they had forged shattered with those words. For the first time, Serafina felt the power of her own voice. Gregory's fury spilled into threat. "Do you understand what you're throwing away? Without this merger, your fortune crumbles. Your name becomes dust." Marjorie's voice was colder. "Serafina, you'll drag him down with you. Is that what you want?" The weight of their empire loomed over them, a mountain built on money and fear. But Dante's hand found Serafina's. His grip was warm, unshakable. He looked at her, not at them, his voice steady. "Let it crumble. Let it all burn. I choose you." The words split her chest wide. He wasn't just defying them. He was risking everything. His name, his legacy, his power, for her. Tears blurred her vision, spilling fast, unstoppable. She squeezed his hand, holding tight. "And I choose freedom, not wealth, not their chains." Behind them, the storm of outrage grew, but Serafina no longer trembled. The man at her side was not her jailer. He was her choice. In that moment, their love became sacrifice, and sacrifice became strength. The audience of parents and lawyers could not take it from them. The world might, but not tonight. Tonight, love stood taller than any fortune. That night, rain hammered the roof. Thunder rolled over the pines, wind tearing through the dark like a warning. Serafina and Dante stood on the porch, the storm wild around them. The rain drenched her hair, plastering it to her cheeks. She shivered, but his arms wrapped around her, holding her steady. The sky cracked open with lightning. The world felt unsteady, chaotic. Yet, within his embrace, there was calm. She buried her face against his chest, whispering, "Everything is falling apart." He pressed his lips to her hair. "Let it fall. We'll stand." The storm raged harder, whipping rain sideways, bending the tall trees. It was as if the heavens mirrored their fight, a violent echo of everything pressing down on them. But in the violence, there was also beauty, a reminder that even the fiercest storms pass. Serafina lifted her head, her eyes meeting his, wet, trembling, but certain. "As long as you don't let go." Dante's arms tightened, his voice low. "Never." Lightning split the sky, and for one breathless moment they stood silhouetted against it. Two figures against the chaos bound by defiance and love. The storm would not break them. It would forge them. The storm quieted, but inside her the battle still raged. Serafina stood on the porch, rain dripping from her lashes. Dante's hands held her shoulders, his gaze steady, waiting, not pushing. Her chest rose and fell, words fighting to break free. For so long she had run. From her family, from the cage they built, even from her own fear. But now, she was done running. She lifted her chin, her voice trembling but firm. "I choose you. This time I'm not running anymore." His breath caught. For a heartbeat, the world stilled. Then he pulled her into him, his lips crashing against hers. The kiss was fierce, raw, soaked in rain and fire. It was a vow carved not in paper, not in contracts, but in flesh and soul. Her arms wrapped around him, anchoring herself to the one man she swore she would never want. And now, she wanted nothing else. The thunder rolled one last time above them, but inside, the storm had ended. The fire crackled low when Dante finally spoke. They sat close, wrapped in blankets, their clothes still damp from the storm. He brushed a strand of wet hair from her face, his thumb lingering on her cheek. His eyes held no smirk, only gravity. "Serafina," he whispered. "Marry me. Not for them. Not for a deal. For us." The words hit her like a wave. Her chest tightened, her throat burning with tears she couldn't hold back. "You mean it?" she whispered. His hand found hers, squeezing, grounding. "I've never meant anything more." Her vision blurred, but the tears were no longer from pain. They were release. They were hope. "Yes," she breathed, the word breaking into a sob. She nodded, harder this time. "Yes." He pulled her into him, kissing her slow, deep, sealing the promise between them. The world beyond the walls still threatened. Families, money, contracts, they were waiting. But here, now, music rose within her chest. A symphony louder than fear, louder than duty. For the first time she wasn't being given away. She was choosing. Seraphina Hale began her story as nothing more than a bargaining chip, a daughter weighed down by her parents' debts and ambitions. They tried to sell her future, to seal her life away with a contract, but she refused. Through fire, betrayal, and storm, she fought to reclaim herself. She found a voice they could not silence. She found love they could not control. And in the arms of the man she once thought was her prison, she discovered freedom, because this time she chose it. Money may build empires. Titles may command respect, but no fortune can buy the heart of a woman who has decided her own path. If Seraphina's journey touched you, if you saw even a shadow of your own struggles in her defiance, share this story with others. And don't forget to subscribe so you can continue walking beside us in the next chapter of love, courage, and freedom.